welcome to Unfinished Business, a podcast by Rice Bowl. I'm Rina, the co-founder of Rice Bowl, a venture builder that doesn't just help founders shape their ideas, we help build them. So Rice Bowl started because I had a lot of experience working with angel investors, and being a venture capital, I've realized that a lot of entrepreneur stories wasn't told the correct way. It wasn't really about just the glossy pitch deck or the buzzword, but what are the stories that make the founders, still doing what they're doing? So think of it as, building a business, but going through a lot of hardship, but no one actually understood what you're going through. So instead of another corporate or tech show, we've created something really easy to understand, sort of layman's, honest, and relatable. A space where founders can talk about their unfinished journey. They can feel relaxed, they can feel safe to talk about the failures, the pivots, and the unfinished business. So on this show, we explore entrepreneurship in what we call the 70s. The technology, the trend, the traction, the team, the terms, the trajectory, and the total addressable market. This is our way to actually break down what really matters to a business venture. So for today's episode, we're zooming in to technology and traction, on how innovation can solve real problems and how people are actually starting to use it. We're speaking today with Klean, a startup that's changing the way Malaysians think about recycling. So instead of treating recycling as a chore, Klean uses technology like reverse vending machines and digital rewards to turn everyday's habit into meaningful action. And the traction that they have built across communities, users, and corporate partners shows that what happens when behavior change meets the right system. Joining me today is Dato' Nick, the Executive Chairman of Klean, to talk about building a new recycling culture and how traction grows when people feel their action matters. Dato' Nick, welcome to the Unfinished Business.
Hi, Rina. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. So, Dato' Nick, I know that you are a chiropractor first.
Yes, I've come from a healthcare background.
Yes. How did that background, lead you to, start Klean? Was it something like you see people not treating, the waste correctly?
It was kind of linked to my core skill, which is I'm a sports chiropractor.
Right.
So I treat a lot of people with running injuries, and I started to run marathons. And I ran the Berlin Marathon in 2017, 2018. And obviously we drink a lot of water.
Of course.
And at the end of the marathon, after I was kind of like, half dead at the Brandenburg Gate, drinking a lot of water from plastic bottles, there were these old German gentlemen, very well dressed, who were asking if they could take our plastic bottles. And I'm like, sure, what are you going to do with them? They said, we make lots of money from this plastic. And that's where I discovered this container return scheme, which many countries around the world, and Germany is probably the most successful one. What they do is when you buy a bottle of water or you buy a can of cool drink, there is a deposit amount in there. I think it's about 25 euro cent in Germany.
Okay.
And once you finish drinking the bottle, if you put it back into these machines at the back of their convenience stores, they give you back your money.
Right.
And as a result of that, Germany has a 98.5% recovery rate for plastic bottles.
Wow.
And that seemed like it was kind of like an aha moment. We're like, this is pretty cool. I wonder if this is back in Malaysia and in ASEAN. And there was no such machine.
Well, we have people collecting bottles,
Yes.
but the profit of recycling does not go to the consumer. So we basically don't have any motivation. So we just bongs and throw anywhere.
Exactly.
Right?
This is the informal collection business. And essentially, if you collected 100 plastic bottles, you're only going to get 50 cents.
Yes,
from
it's
the
by
recycling
the
center.
gram, right? By the
yeah,
kg.
by the kilogram, and it's not a very rewarding process. Plus, if you had to do that as a consumer, you need to pay for your toll, drive down to Jalan Klang Lama to go and hand your bottles across. Your petrol and your toll is worth probably 3 or 4 times what the actual plastic bottles are worth. So it's also probably more harmful to do that. So we came back to Malaysia and built version 1 of the machine. And then we realized AI, we were probably one of the first users of AI technology in Malaysia at scale and commercially. where we used an AI engine to actually recognize the bottle and the can, and to collect it instead of reading the barcode. So we developed our machines, and then instead of giving money, we had to give digital points. You get 10 points for every time you put a bottle or a can into one of our machines, and then you collect all those points into the Klean app. And within the Klean app, you can swap those points for things like Grab rides, Grab vouchers. We've given away Amana Saham. We've given touch and go credits. And that was a digitization of what the German system was. And of course, because it's not a law in Malaysia, we had to build a business out of it. So what we did is we get companies to pay us a fee to wrap the machines. Plus, we have digital out-of-home advertising on the side. And then we place those machines in high footfall locations so that they actually get a benefit of being seen. And then we give them all the ESG data that we collect from the machines.
Right. I've seen, of course, government from different countries, corporations, putting what I call the sorting bins,
Yes.
right? The paper, recycle, and all this. Do you think it works?
It doesn't. I mean, if you look at Singapore have even installed in their HDB flats, they've installed these chutes at the lift, so you don't even have to go downstairs.
Yes.
And since they've done that, since they've put the blue bins around, their recycling rate is actually dropped. So if you go to an airport, you will see a lot of these kind of paper, bottle, food bins. People just throw it. And it's not just the idea of, even if you do separate, the question is, where does that go?
Yeah, exactly.
In Malaysia, it's going to get picked up by one of our waste concessionaires, and 9 out of 10 times it's going to go to a landfill, which is not sanitized, means it's open.
Yes.
And when the rains come, those landfills are next to rivers. All that rubbish gets washed.
That's probably
into the
one
river.
of the cause of the floods, right? The
Yeah,
rivers
it blocks things up. I mean, you look at the Klean River and the amount of rubbish that they remove with the interceptor barges that Coldplay sponsored. It's an incredible amount of waste they take out every day.
Yeah.
So
what I realized was I do spend some time in Philippines, so
Yes.
I sort my waste,
Yes.
right? But the truck beans that comes, I saw this guys opening it up and pouring everything into one. So I was like, oh, why am I doing this? I'm
Yeah.
actually making their work harder because they have to, it's such a old traditional way of doing this, right? So I guess, of course, in Germany, I think that is the ideal system.
Correct.
Where you have a deposit, so people are motivated to
Yes.
return,
Yes.
right? Here, because we do not have that law, you sort of go around it, having that vending machines that
Yeah.
give people rewards.
Yes.
And this is all privately driven,
Correct.
right? So have you sort of receive any support from the government to, help with pushing this a step forward?
Well, we haven't had the support that we'd like, because obviously we would like to scale, and we feel that government should be funding the rollout of these machines. So NRES, our environmental ministry, have one machine which they've sponsored and put at their HQ.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been lucky enough from the Prime Minister to have a tax deduction for our category of technology. And that's been very helpful in terms of being able to get corporates to come on board, because they can use it as a tax deduction. But other than that, not as much support. I mean, essentially where we position ourselves as Klean is we're the pilot project to show that the system works. And we've done that at a decent enough scale. We have 130,000 active recyclers on our app. And we've collected a lot of plastic and aluminum containers, but really to show that it needs to be a law. Singapore will start next year on the 1st of April, on April Fool's Day. Hopefully it's not a joke, but they're definitely doing it. But they will start the first container deposit scheme in the whole of ASEAN. And I think it's 20 Singapore cent per container. So if you buy a bottle of water that costs you $1 in Singapore today, on the 1st of April, it will be $1.20. But if you put them back into the machine, you get your money back.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's a good way of, trying to gently introduce the habit. I mean, sometimes you dangle the carrots, but sometimes, you need a
stick.
rattan, a stick, right?
Yes.
But I think Singapore in the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, right? We have these Block 71, even the canteens, right? They have these return the tray. So your chicken rice would be like $3 because it's subsidized.
Yeah.
But it's going to be $4. But when you return the tray, they'll give back,
Correct.
the coins just drop 1 cent. But when you started this, like since, Asia is not a place where people are so conscious about environment, right? Until maybe recently, everybody seems to have ESG, hanging, inserting ESG and sustainability in every single thing. When you first started, did people really understood the concept, or there was a lot of education, especially, the corporates, right? How do you convince the corporate, the likes? I know, of course, since Ficus is the investor, so people like them,
DHL,
right?
Yeah.
Of course, they have to comply to certain law because they operate. But was it hard? Was it the education journey? Was it hard?
So I think if you look at educating people, and then of course then trying to convince the corporates to become our partners, I think we underestimate how much education has been done. So I think what the government have done well is, especially if you went to a government school, they've been doing, newspaper
Recycling,
on a Thursday. I mean, this is something that Malaysians understand. Even if you go and you meet the orang asli, in the forest, they also understand recycling. They understand the environment. So it's less about educating the rakyat, the people. It's more about having a system. So you can go and educate everyone, but if you don't have a proper system, like what you mentioned, our waste collection system is broken. We don't separate at source, whereas Europe does, Australia does, New Zealand does, the UK does. So we don't have a proper separation at source system. So I think we didn't have to really educate at all. And plus, our machines are very intuitive. If you can use an ATM, or a hand phone, you can definitely use our machines. It's a big touch screen, right? So people get to use it very, very quickly. They understand it. In terms of convincing corporates, yes, because there are no requirements to do this. There's no legal requirement in Malaysia.
They do it as part of their CSR in the past.
Yes.
But now I think, they have to comply to certain sustainability.
Yes.
Of course, since it's not a sorting bin where there's no data, even from the look at it, you can't differentiate what are the types of waste. But for Klean,
yes,
I think the one that sort of is unique to Klean is the amount of data, right, that you can give back to the corporate, where they can use it as part of their reporting. Right? Is that when ESG become, the last 2 years more sexy?
Yes.
So was it easier for the corporate to say yes?
Yes and no. We still had to build a value proposition. So we had to identify a need, and the need is verifiable data. So I think those days of a public listed company on Bursa being able to do a sustainability report that says they planted 1,000 trees, that's not good enough.
Yes.
You now actually have to have verifiable data. So we spent a lot of time and effort on our dashboard, and then getting all our international certifications for the machine. So we built that value proposition, but then we also had to think of, can we build this into a billboard for them so that they can go and tap their PR and marketing budgets? Because most companies' sustainability budget is zero. I mean, that's the reality in Malaysia. So when you sit with a sustainability person, it's normally like they're the head of marketing and sustainability.
Or like HR and sustainability.
Yeah, it's kind of like they've just been thrown this hot potato to handle. So we've had to go and think from a corporate point of view, where do we get the budget from? And that's PR and marketing.
Okay. So Klean's model is very interesting. Can, for example, a company just buy the machine? So what is the business model? Do you lease it to the corporate, or someone can just buy it? Like, for example, if I live in this community, and I'm the community manager or the.
Sure.
Can I just buy it from my community, or it has to be a leasing arrangement with Klean? So
this is a real kind of startup experience. We had no template to work from. We had to start from scratch. No one had done this in Southeast Asia. So when we started, we started the idea of selling machines, but very quickly we realized that capex is quite significant. And then you've then got to go and sign up a second contract to maintain the machine. And that's not that attractive. Plus, people don't understand this business very well of reverse vending. We're the first one. So we very quickly pivoted towards a recycle as a service program. So I would say we're probably one of the first and only reverse vending machine companies in the world that did that. So we do it on a service model where companies will pay us a monthly fee. And in return, it's a wrapping fee. So they wrap their branding.
Okay.
So DHL.
I just recently saw Grab.
Jam. Yeah, DHL is another big partner of ours. So they wrap the machine with their branding, and then it's the responsibility is on Klean to find the locations, whether it's a petrol station, whether it's a shopping center, a mall or whatever. And then we do all the hard work, the operational stuff. So there's no hidden costs. That monthly recycle as a service fee covers the location, electricity, connectivity, 5G, whatever. If the machine breaks down, our team are there to fix it. So it's a really hassle-free approach. And then it's also good from a business point of view because the machines sit on our books. So, that means that we build value in terms of our company. And that's worked very well.
So for the corporates, right, what do they expect from these partnership with Klean? The data?
Yes.
And you also mentioned earlier that, of course, I've seen the machines.
Yeah.
They've got like a digital
out
board,
of home,
right? Yeah. So that space, of course, is you can monetize that space. So
correct.
that space belongs to Klean or it belongs to the corporation?
So we allow our partner to be able to use it.
Okay.
But we also work on a profit sharing model as well.
Right,
So
okay.
if we do get a company that wants to go and put adverts on our machines that are, say, at the MRT station, and they want to pay us, we'll share back with our partner, and vice versa. They'll pay us a smaller fee for managing the adverts from our CMS central management system for the adverts. So yeah.
Okay, so it looks like the corporate can look at it as also it's not it's not only just an expense. It could be potentially, of course, they will get a data, which and it's a verifiable data,
correct,
right?
Yeah.
It's real time.
It's using AI, so we can count and we can show
because
pictures
one
of
of
every container.
the challenges for all these big corporation listed companies is that they can submit the sustainably report, and most of the time it's written very beautifully.
Yes.
But we always question, right, the data.
Yes.
Where did it come from?
Yes.
If you're just collecting data using Excel, I mean, Excel can do wonders, right?
Correct.
But I think of course, people are now smarter. They know that real-time third-party data, verified, is definitely more credible.
Correct.
And they also can make some, revenue.
Yeah.
Of course, if they have enough machines, that could actually cover their costs, right?
Correct. So it's kind of like a hybrid between sustainability, gathering verifiable ESG data, and PR and marketing. So they're able to kind of position it amongst multiple budgets within the company. And because we use AI and a camera, we could timestamp and take a photograph of every container so you can go and verify it to that level. So you can audit it. And plus we have all the MyHijal certification. We're Global Green Tag certified out of Australia. So we've tried to kind of make sure that we're keeping the highest possible standard so that you can't cheat the system.
So let's maybe break it down to for the listeners, right? So the moment Rina registered, to be a Klean, download the Klean app. I believe I key in the phone number, and I'm now a Klean member. Cleaner. I'm a cleaner, and I can deposit PET bottles.
Yeah.
Currently, it's just PET bottles.
PET and aluminium cans.
Okay,
and into one slot.
Any sizes.
Yes.
Okay, and the moment I drop into the machine, what happens?
So just to also correct the first point, you don't have to download the app first.
Okay.
We saw that as being a potential barrier to entry.
Okay.
So you can just walk up to our machine, not have registered anything, press recycle.
There's
a touch screen.
Screen.
Press recycle, put your container in. Container goes in on a conveyor belt. Our AI camera looks at it and goes, yes, this is a plastic bottle, or no, it's a shoe. People put strange things in these machines.
Right.
It'll eject
just
it.
Just
to test it. It'll eject what doesn't belong in there. If it does belong in there, in other words, a PET plastic drinks container bottle or an aluminium can, it'll accept it and gives you 10 points. Once you finish putting in your bottle in, let's say you put 1, you press finish, then you put your phone number. So there's a space on the screen to actually put your phone number in.
Right.
And then it'll send you a message. If you're already a member and you have the app, it'll automatically add the points. If not, it says download the app in order to become a member. And that's probably the easiest way. There's also a QR code that pops up so that if you want to use the QR code system, you can scan that QR code in and it'll give you your 10 points. But most people just plug in their phone number, even if they already are a member.
So there's an intelligent camera that actually sort of like scan
Yes.
and verify
It's a
this
machine
is
learning AI container.
all right.
So,
Do they,
Camera.
of course, they're smart enough to identify the brands.
yes.
Right,
yes.
because that will be an interesting data, right?
Yes.
For the consumers, in PJ and TTDI,
Yes.
who drinks
Yes.
spritzer more than
And good for the
Dasani,
brand
right?
owners to know that we're collecting
Yeah,
back their
exactly.
containers.
I think brand owners, let's say Spritzer or Dasani, whatever.
Yeah.
There's so many brands. They do not know who actually holding the bottle because
Correct.
it's like distribution is complicated, right?
Correct.
By the time they reach the consumer,
Yes.
like they do not really know,
Yeah.
Dato Nick likes Spritzer or
Yeah.
Spritzer or Rina loves Dasani. So
Yeah.
I think that would be interesting. Of course, I guess it won't zoom into an individual name, but at least collectively that location.
Yeah, we can. We
Yeah.
can match because we get the data from when you scan.
Yeah.
So we know that Rena put in 20
20
spritzer
spritzer.
bottles. Yeah. So we can match it to the user, and then we get your age, we get your demographic, we
Yeah.
know where you live. So that information can be matched in the
So
back end.
that I think is a very important data. I mean, in future, I guess you are what you drink.
Yes.
Of course, you drink more water better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it will be very interesting data for brand owners instead of now just collecting it for recycling purpose.
Correct.
There's so much information consumer behaviors.
Well, you can also gamify the process. So if you put in a Coca-Cola bottle, it can loop a Coke ad on the side or the screens, for example, or
And scan to get more points.
yes,
Or play an app.
or if you put you could link it to a healthcare opportunity. If you put a low sugar drink in, you get 20 points instead of 10. But it can also be used to nudge these companies to show that, hey, you're selling like 5 billion bottles of water, but you ain't getting any back, and that's not good. Part of your extended producer responsibility is you can't just make money from selling, bottles of water. What are you doing to get them back, to recover them? So we can also use it to pressure these companies to do more about recovering back or creating a system for their consumers to return those containers so that they're not left floating in the ocean.
So I was planning to ask you about the extended producer's
Yes.
responsibility because I've heard it in many countries. Later part of the interview, but since you brought it up, right? How is Malaysia, doing in this, this law? There were talks that this law is gonna be passed, but it's still work in progress, or you see it coming soon.
I mean, it's
akan-dakan.
a disaster. I mean, unfortunately, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines, just those 5 countries account for half the world's ocean plastic. So this is not just a Malaysian problem. It's a problem that is across ASEAN. And simply put, there's not enough done. The EPR legislation, I think, has been spoken about for a long time.
Philippines has passed a law.
Philippines is probably, I think, the first that has really done something. So if you look at the Philippines, there's a lot of startups in the space
Yes.
of doing the separation.
Yes, I know. I met
Because they
them
get money
in one.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've met a few of them in some of the startup competitions that we're in. Philippines is very progressive around EPR. Malaysia, not so much. And the political will needs to be there. And unfortunately, plastic in Malaysia and waste falls into 2 separate ministry, NRES and then KPKT. KPKT ministry, I think, announced back last year in August around some, EPR, movement that was going to happen, but it's slow and it needs to happen quickly because we have a very low recycling rate. We should be at 80%, and we're probably, for plastic, we don't really know how much, but figures vary between 15 and 24%.
Right.
And that's just not good enough.
Yeah. So I've also heard this, right, when you said, okay, yes, I agree, Philippines is really sort of way ahead in this, right? So I was in this conference, and then some of the speakers were saying that, we are the number 1 polluter, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? The plastics and the trash actually was washed to our shore. And I said, how do you know that? Because, okay, we don't have this brand in
Yes.
Philippines. So it could be from other countries.
Yes.
Of course, the waves do carry this, right? But, let's go to ocean plastics.
Yes.
I think ocean plastics is really going to kill, us.
Yeah.
Ocean
The
plastics.
microplastics. Yeah.
Microplastics. I mean, now when I dig further, I'm like, okay, should I be eating fish?
Yeah. Yeah. It's in the
Yeah.
food chain. I mean,
But anyway, I mean, you're in this space, right? So of course, Klean is helping, to make recycling more tech driven
Yeah.
and make it easy for people to, or give people more motivation to recycle,
Yeah.
right? What about the ocean? Is any technology that is cleaning up the ocean in a more affordable way? I mean, there are many so-called expeditions,
Yeah.
but it costs like a lot of money to
Yeah.
do that, right? So for Malaysia shores, I always go to the beach and besides the beach cleaning,
Yeah.
what else can we do to make sure our beaches
Well, you got to go to the source of the problem. It's disheartening to go to the beach and do a beach cleanup, and then as soon as you turn around and about to jump in the back,
I see a lot of
you're like-
corporates, go to the beach,
Yeah,
clean
it's
up, and
as soon as
post a photo.
as everyone goes back into the bus to go back to HQ, the bottles are washing up again. So
Yes.
look, beach cleanups are important. They do help, but really the plastic is washing from unsanitized landfills, and it's going into the rivers, and then it's going into the ocean. So
it is actually from the landfill, not like people are throwing things into
not
the
for
ocean,
that kind of volume, So
Yeah.
it's heavy rains, like that is washing plastic from urban settings into rivers, and that's getting into there. So I think, to answer your question, the only technology I know of in Malaysia that is doing this at some decent scale is the interceptor, which I mentioned earlier, which I think there's two sitting on the Klean River, and they're intercepting the plastic before it goes into the Malacca Straits. So you've got to go upstream of where the problem is. We have the world's biggest garbage patch, which I think is in the Atlantic Ocean. There are a lot of companies that are going to clean that up as well at a decent scale. But that's why we're saying it really starts with the consumer. If you can put your bottle of water into a system that ensures it doesn't end up in a landfill and therefore doesn't go into a river and the ocean, that's a much better way. So, when you put the bottles into our machines, those bottles will end up in registered recycling facilities where it's turned back into PET or back into aluminium, and that's what we call circularity. So that's where the circular economy then kicks in. So that's really, really important.
Okay, so coming back, the moment I put the PET, so if it's recognized as a PET bottle,
Yeah.
what about if someone crushes it? Does it have to be like in a perfect round shape, or if it's like crushed?
For our machine,
the-
yes, and we have instructions on there that we try and encourage people not to crush them. There's a few reasons behind that. Number one is because it's very hard to recognize a barcode or a container if it's flat. The AI is not that smart. Number one. Number two, if you're putting a bottle on the floor and you're jumping on it, you're contaminating the bottle with dirt.
Yeah.
It then becomes a less valuable recycling feedstock. The third reason is we have no standardization in Malaysia as to how you actually make a plastic bottle. So, for example, in the US, there are standards for making a PET bottle. You can't use any colored plastic. It's got to be clear. So if you notice, Sprite bottles
green?
used to be green. Now they're
Yes.
white.
Ah.
So all the Sprite bottles are white because green PET is essentially useless, right? So you want to keep it white so that you can turn it back into white PET feedstock.
Right.
And then the label, so the lid is made of PP. The label should be made of a PP label. But to save costs, sometimes those labels are made of PVC, which is a different plastic resin, contains chlorine. And if we start to mix different resins up like that, further down, when it comes to the recyclers, it becomes tricky for them to separate. So we prefer not to either crush in the machine or accept crushed containers.
Right. Does the machine accept a PET bottle that's still filled with water?
Yeah, we do.
You do.
We do, yeah.
I'm sure there's some naughty people who just,
It's amazing, right? So
what kind kind of funny things have you seen people put into the machine?
Right in the beginning, we had like a hamburger. Someone put like a shoe, and we had machines in Gunting.
Shoes.
They put a shoe. We had a dirty diaper, which is a bit gross. So we have to very, very smart AI to eject that back, right? But I mean, honestly speaking,
it's like vandalism. Or they thought this is a tong sampa.
Like tong sampa,
okay.
like a very expensive tong
my
sampa. But honestly speaking, again, and I say this hand on heart, Malaysians are incredibly good recyclers. We have a version of our machine that we developed with Grab where we collect back the tapau boxes,
Oh yes,
the food containers.
Oh my God,
and we were thinking, oh my God, can you imagine like all the tulang and the meat and the minyak inside the box? But actually, almost every single container we've collected is clean. So, and that's because we're tapping into existing behavior. I think any of us have got like, I don't know, you open your cupboard and those things fall on top of you, right? Those big Tupperwares.
Oh, that's my mom.
You're not going to keep dirty Tupperware, hopefully, unless you're like a really bad hoarder. You're going to make sure that you've cleaned out your containers and you're going to stack them up. So when you're going to go and recycle, you'll take clean containers and put them into the machine. So we haven't had a problem with that. And again, I think we underestimate the hygiene and cleanliness generally of Malaysians. We are quite a hygienic population, and people know how to recycle. Plus, when you have cameras, people are a little bit malu to go and put stupid things in there, right? So we've got a camera that watches you from the top as well.
And then the face come out from your screen.
Yeah, we're like, hey, we'll put your Rina, stop putting in the hamburger nasi lemak packets. Yeah. So we haven't had that. Has not been a big problem. Probably less than 1% of our containers are dirty or have liquid inside them.
So now let's go to part 2 of the recycling process. So you've explained to us how people actually drop in the PET bottle. Hopefully nobody drops any diapers or any hamburgers in the future. Now, what about those bottles that you've collected? So you mentioned something like you work with partners.
Yes.
They are authorized recyclers.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, deploying these machines, right? One of the I think challenges will be in terms of operation, right? I'm sure it's intelligent enough to tell, hey, the bin is full.
Yes, correct.
Right? And would these partners get notified automatically, and they come and picked up the bulk of the PET bottles?
So I don't know if you know this, Rina, but Malaysia is between Malaysia and Turkey, we're the largest importers of plastic waste in the world.
Importer.
We import plastic waste into Malaysia because the feedstock, in other words, the clean, recyclable material is not available in Malaysia. So even though we have so much plastic, so much sampah.
Where does our sampah go to?
Our sampah goes to landfill.
Okay.
And because there is no separation at source, it's contaminated.
Right.
So the quality of the feedstock is not good. So what Malaysia has is there are APs, and I think when Yobi Yun was the minister, she was constantly going to the port to go and lock the containers and send them back.
Yes.
To
We
Europe.
were like the dumping ground.
We were the dumping ground, but these were actually people who were misusing the import licenses. But the idea of being able to import plastic from places like New Zealand, Australia, Europe, where they separate at source, is that the quality of this feedstock for our recycling system here is much better.
Right.
So when we deal with the bottles that we collect, it's very high quality feedstock because it has not gone into a tong sampah. It hasn't gone into a rubbish bin. It's not being scavenged from a landfill. So the recycling
Pristine
partners,
condition,
it's clean. So the recycling partners that we work with will come and collect every 2 weeks from a storage area. So let's say, for example, it's in a shopping mall. The bin gets full. Our system automatically sends it to a message board. We send a message to the person in charge of that area.
Yes.
They will go empty, bag, separate, and store in the storage area. And about once a week or once every 2 weeks, our recycling partner will come and collect at scale so that there is value in that for them. And then they don't charge us and we don't pay them.
Well, it was a very good symbiosis, right?
Correct, exactly.
Because I think nowadays, even when you move houses, you have to pay someone to actually clear away the
Your
unwanted.
rubbish. Yeah.
So I think this is a
And they're
really
happy to
good
do
model.
that because the quality of our feedstock is so good. In fact, we get recycling companies call us all the time. Can we take your plastic? Because there's a shortage of that.
Well, I think, I'm happy to hear that, since Clean started, people are now, getting the habit is there, you're cultivating habits. And I mean, before we go live, we were chatting about schools,
Yeah.
I think we should, you mentioned that schools, they're teaching about recycling, right? But, saving the environment and all this is not just about planting trees.
Yeah.
If I may ask, how many schools how many schools are there in your portfolio, Klein?
So I think
Were they like primary school, government schools, or
mainly
school?
private schools.
Private schools.
Just because the getting permission to put them in government schools is complicated. It's a different type of
So
bureaucracy.
you're going to have to maybe go to the top.
Yeah,
now?
exactly. So we went to some international
Schools.
schools and then also into universities. The only downside of a school and a university is that hand phones, and I think quite soon you won't be able to take a smartphone onto there. But you don't need a smartphone. You can just, as long as you remember your parents' phone number, you can put their phone number in. But also schools and universities have very long holidays. So if our machine is sitting on a university or school campus and the gates are
during
locked,
break,
for a 2 or 3 month holiday, it's also
It's
not
idle.
It's idle. So it's not necessarily the best. For us, the best locations are forecourts of petrol stations because you don't have to worry about parking. You normally go there once a week to fill up to isi
Yes.
minyak, to fill up your petrol. While the petrol's going in, you can go and put your bottles in.
Right.
And we've had great examples of this with Settle, with Shell, Petronas Settle, where you get Settle points and you could swap that for 5 ringgit, and that's half a tank of fuel for a motorbike. So that was then also tapping into that kind of socioeconomic category. For them, it's quite a lot of money. So we are really happy that we've been able to show in many different socioeconomic situations that we can actually impact on people's cost of living. So that's quite a cool thing that we've
So
proven.
Clean actually partners with other brands, right? So
Yes.
you're giving out I think Grab vouchers,
Yes.
points, rewards.
Amana Saham, we gave Amana Saham.
Oh wow!
as well,
So
yeah.
so what's the current partnership like today? What's cool? And,
So I think Grab rewards will be the coolest one. So we give
practical.
So Grab rides, 5 ringgit off a Grab order. We're looking at working with their Grab Unlimited program for universities if we go into campuses. We've got, what else have we got in there at the moment? So we've done KTM commuter train journeys. So you got 15% off to Balik Kampung for 20 bottles, which is quite a lot.
20 bottles?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I was going to ask you how many hundreds of bottles do I need to drop in before I can get the $5 voucher?
we're trying to make it easy, right? So, we don't want to make it impossible for people to get the rewards. And that can be gamified. So we can change that in the back end very easily because it's digital. So we could have Recycling Friday where you only have to put in 10 bottles and you get 10% off your train journey. So we're about to launch with Prasarana and a few MRT stations. So that's going to be quite cool. That's where we're also looking at doing some rewards for them for train journeys.
So if I asked you, what is, if I asked you to choose one brand that you like to work with, as a reward partner
Yes.
or, a strategic partner, what would that be?
Oh, sorry. I also mentioned Zeus. So Zeus, we've got them as rewards as well. So you get we've got Zeus rewards.
So
Zeus
I
would
can
be in-
redeem Zeus coffee.
You can, yes.
Oh, okay.
I think the big companies like your Coca-Colas, your Spritzers, those would be the ones, not that we would like to work with, but those are the ones that should be working with us. So we kind of look at it in a different way. These are the guys that should be falling over themselves to do what's right and make sure that, they make a lot of money. These are public listed companies making millions, try and do something that creates a pathway for your customers to return their bottles. So I think those are the ones.
I'm sure just of course returning the bottle in a bigger way is trying to save the environment. But I think by the act of returning, these brands know who is the consumer.
Correct. There's a
Currently,
lot
of course,
data,
they know the big data, but they will never know who is that person.
Yes, correct.
So if I were to ask you, right, do you have 60,000 cleaners?
We have 135,000.
135,000.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you data. Out of 135,000, male, female, what are the ratios?
Roughly 50-50.
50-50.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Age group.
Age group, I would say it depends where. So we can also...
Your best location.
I would say our best location would probably be majority female shoppers. So they're going to do the groceries, right? And probably 40 to 50 years old. Yeah.
In terms of the location of the machines, right? Of
Yes.
course, you've got like even restaurants, you've got the best spot, right?
Yes.
In terms of Klang Valley, which is the best spot for you?
So Gardens is actually quite a
Gardens?
popular one because it's near the food courts.
Ah.
So that's quite easy. We had at Bukit Antarabangsa and Jalan Kolam Air Lama with Petronas, the petrol stations. Those are also very popular. We had at Shell Taman Tun. That machine's moved now, but that was extremely popular because these are neighborhood fuel stations where people can make it a habit. It's very easy for them to just go down the road, do their recycling, and then get their Shell Select points or whatever, bonus link, or settle in those days when we worked with them. So those would be the popular ones, would be in those kind of locations.
So if Malaysia, of course, the ecosystem of the government were to fully adopt,
Yes.
Clean's model, that would be ideal. Happy
Yes.
for the investors.
Yes.
What kind of transformation would you see in the next 5 to 10 years? We have less floods because there's no rubbish flooding the river. How can it help? In terms of savings.
Sure.
In terms of managing all these natural disasters. From the government perspective.
Yes.
And then even for the corporates, right? So currently you've got good clients like Grab and all this. Like, there are thousands of public listed companies, and they are forced to comply. I mean, they have to comply.
Yeah.
Previously was voluntary, right? If we were to pitch to a public listed co today, right? What would be your 1 minute pitch to them?
Well, I would say that they have an opportunity to get verifiable ESG data for reporting, so that meets a need and solves a problem for them. Also impact, that they can impact on the community that they're making their money from. And they can then also shout that out from a PR and marketing point of view. So this is a really impactful social impact, I would say, would be my pitch to them. And there would be, people can see what they're doing. So it's not just in a report. They can actually feel it and see it. In terms of solving the flooding problem and what that might look like in the next 5 years, well, if there's less rubbish on our streets, there's less rubbish blocking our drains, that means that our places like DBKL don't have to spend so much money getting people to go and clean the drains out. Waste management costs will reduce because you're creating circularity in our waste stream. We'll have more organic waste sitting in our rubbish bins, so then they can create other uses for organic waste, for things like oil, waste to energy kind of stuff. And then, of course, it impacts on tourism. Places like Sabah, where recently there was this article about Semporna being the dirtiest Asian city.
Yes.
And that's the gateway to the top 3 diving site Sipadan in the world. So these things are not good for our tourism. So there's other impacts that above and beyond simply just EPR or waste management. Means we need to import less plastic waste, which is good for us too. So there's multiple spill-on effects of separation at source technologies like ours.
So if I were to say, the takeaway would be, the ecosystem really need to look into the root cause.
Yes.
It's not just about putting more dustbins on the road, or even texting people. I guess, of course, the consumer habit, the way you make it easy for people to recycle. And of course, rewards is always good, right?
Yeah.
Practical rewards.
I think a simple way to say it, Rina, would be make a plastic bottle simply too valuable to throw away. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the pitch. you know, and
It's a gold nugget.
it's a goal. Yeah, exactly. Make it. In fact, just as an aside, one of our first rewards was with a company called Hello Gold. I don't know if you remember them.
Yes.
So we worked out that one plastic bottle is worth 0.0000000, like 1.4 grams of gold.
Oh my God.
So there was also something we did. We actually gave Hello Gold.
Gold mining.
Yeah, we gave Hello Gold
Gold.
rewards. They were one of our first
Right,
reward
right,
partners.
right.
I don't think they're around anymore, but that was quite cool.
Well, the rewards, $5 Grab voucher may seem like just a little to a group of people, but I think, like you said, people in the B40.
University students.
Yeah, ringgit is like a lot.
Yeah.
If I can redeem a Zeus coffee, that's quite a bit, right?
Yeah. And if you can do that once a day, that's quite a lot, right?
Yeah. And I'm sure maybe some creative entrepreneur people will go and collect it
Yeah.
and make it a business out of it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we have those traditional recyclers, the aunties and uncles.
Yes.
I see them a lot in Hong Kong. They collect it and they step on it and they sell it for kgs.
Yeah, people
right?
make money out of it.
So if there are aunties or even just like I see in Singapore, there's a group of joggers, and as they jog, they pick
Yeah,
up
they call it plugging.
plogging.
Yes.
It was a really nice
cool.
way to be at one with the environment, right? You don't
Yes.
want to be jogging on dirty tracks,
Yeah,
right?
we had someone at one of our machines with a trolley with like 400 plastic bottles that she collected, and she came on the MRT carrying it in bags.
Oh my God.
And then went to our machine, and she stood there getting all her points.
She's
yeah.
making a business out of it.
Which is great, right? So
Okay, one last question. I think I think we can chat all day, but I want to ask you this personal question. For you, right? What is unfinished business for the Klean, and on a personal level, right? Do you see yourself, after starting Klean and be a spokesperson or a champion of a sustainable environment? What is next for you?
I think it's really looking at technologies that can separate at source. So the unfinished business is, plastic bottles and aluminium cans are low-hanging fruit because they drinks containers, but solving the problem of the household tong sampah. What's inside there? What can be used? What can be recycled? And how do we bring in technologies that do the same thing, but for the other household waste that we're generating?
Yeah.
I think that's the unfinished business, is the household rubbish bin.
I think for me, because I think rubbish is something close to my heart. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I came from Penang. I grew up in Penang.
Yeah.
I grew up in a very, I would say, low-cost flat.
Okay.
At 17th floor. They have, those days, is the high rise, right?
Yes.
But they have this rubbish chute from
Yeah.
the end of the flat.
Okay.
Right? So you don't have to go down to throw rubbish.
You just throw it down.
Throw it down. Okay? Singapore has the same, HDB.
Yes,
right?
correct.
But you can Google this, called rifle range flats. From young until today, after like 40 years, I go back, the sampah from the top to the big can downstairs is still what we call melimpah keluar. It was the sight that I really dread, as
you
a
went
kid,
back,
right?
yeah.
I have to walk past the sampah, and of course it's all food. When you have food and you have nobody collecting
You
it,
got-
there'll be like maggots, and the smell is
It's a
so...
public health issue. Yeah.
Yes, but the world has changed so much. Elon Musk has gone to space, but
Yeah.
that place is still the same. There's
Yeah.
still the tong sampah issue. So I really was like, that's one of the reasons I was so interested to when I say Klean. How can we do this?
Yeah.
Nobody can solve that problem. When
Yeah.
I go back now, I still see the same image of
Yes.
what I saw when I was a kid. So anyway, I don't know how
Let's try and
Singapore
solve it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible. But anyway, thank you so much for spending your
Thank
time
you
with
for
us.
having
It's
me,
always
Rina. It's always good to see
good
you.
to see you.
Yes,
Yes,
thanks for your
yes.
support.
So that's Nick, co-founder and executive chairman of Klean, and this is Rice Bowl, the unfinished business. So thank you so much for listening. And if you are a brand out there and you feel that you want to be socially responsible and you want to partner with Klean, please get in touch with Dr. Nick. I think you are active on LinkedIn.
Yes. I am.
So you are going to recycle your bottles from your house, I think they have a location where you can find them.
Just
mostly
download the
malls.
Klean app, Klean. Clean the world.
Clean the world.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to remember. So thank you very much
Thank you
again,
for having
Dr.
me.
Nick. And I really hope, Clean can clean the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.